Hey fellas, your commissioner here, coming at you for a little week 14 of NFL action, our final week of the regular season. We finally made it. It's here. 14 weeks just went by in a flash. I feel like just yesterday that I was sitting down here for the first time of the season, talking about how good everybody's draft was and just having a grand old time. And a few weeks after that, I was 3-1 and sitting in a great spot, looking like, oh yeah, I'm gonna cruise. Laz, optimistic commish. He's good. He's back. And and some shit happened there in the middle, and I'm 5-8. So, anyways, Hogs. Excuse me, tough fought victory last night after whomping San Jose State on Saturday. Of course, we lost Brazil. Big loss. Big loss. He was a great six man. He could do a lot of stuff for us. Long, athletic. But hey, that's baseball. That's baseball. People are going to get hurt. And just as long as we don't lose anybody else, I think this team is extremely deep, even though Muss isn't playing like it. We've got a lot of talented guys, and Muss just doesn't like to rotate people, whatever. But I think we have some people who will step up, and maybe Jalen Graham gets some more minutes now, and I'd like to see him. I think he can contribute for us. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into a recap. Getting ahead of myself. A recap of last week's games. We'll start off with our Smirnoff Ice game of the week, and it wasn't that great. A little bit of a snoozer between Shade Dynasty and the Cataclysmic Catches. D-Shade wins this one 125-93 to officially stamp his place in the playoffs. First season, first time making the playoffs, so congrats D-Shade. It's much better first season than a lot of other owners. The last three owners who have come into the league have had. So I guess four if you count Forrest. But, credit to D-Shade. 125. He's on this 4-game win streak to get to 8-5, and it's really been on the back primarily of Tony Pollard, his emergence here down the stretch. And, just Kelsey had a bad game for him. Cooper was underwhelming, but, Metcalf, Pollard, T-Law got 20. Fournette chipped in 15. Just solid. Solid performances, and, you look up and somehow he's got 125, And for Wilson, oh, hey, at least you weren't the dog shit team of the week, right? At least you weren't the dog shit team of the week. But, a 93-pointer, I think this is what, now you did break 100 last week. 3 out of the last 4. 3 out of the last 4 weeks, Wilson has scored under 100 points. And, he's on a 4-game losing streak. Coincidence? I think not. And, Mahomes can only do so much. Chubb has really come crashing back down to reality after the hot start to the year that he had. Sanders up and down, Evans, nothing. Gallup had a good game. Cobb, nothing. He doesn't really have that third wide receiver. Montgomery was solid as well, but, Schultz inconsistent. In a 54-point blowout, he gets 5 points. Not what you want to see, and ooh boy, you talk about speaking things into new existence, right? You talk about speaking things into existence, and I'm almost starting to feel a little bad. Almost. Don't worry, I didn't forget, last week, the snub. I hope y'all had a beautiful, wonderful, magical Christmas time on Saturday. Because Lord knows you're not seeing it on the fantasy football field, okay? He's in for some bad times, and he is staring, going from first place 4 weeks ago or 5 weeks ago to missing the playoffs. That's a very, very stark, real reality that Wilson is facing. To be 7 and what was he, 3? 7-2, I think, and to lose out. He's 7-2. To lose your last 5 remaining games to finish at 500 and miss the playoffs, that might happen. And if something historic happens, which we'll get into during the preview, boy, you're in trouble. You're in trouble, buddy. So yeah, boy. I would be remiss. I met a loyal fan, one of our loyal listeners, loyal watchers, not in the league this weekend with Duncan. Hey, now Duncan watching the U.S. get destroyed. So shout out Cheyenne, Zach, right? Zach and Cheyenne, I believe. Lovely to meet y'all. Y'all are great people. Appreciate the champagne. And there you go. There's your shout out. Anyways, let's see. What else? Hopefully the check's in the mail. Next here we got the Fat Bastards versus I Hate Football. A little bit of a trap game, of course, for Ford. He's still fighting and clawing to secure a first-round bye. And he handled business. His trio of wide receivers really carried the load for him. Not much production elsewhere. I mean, Evan Ingram did have a good game, of course. He wasn't going to start him unless Njoku got hurt. He starts him and he gets 14 points. But McLaurin, monster game, 25 points. Stephon Diggs, 22 points. Devontae Adams, 37 points. When Mike White got 20. So, really good game for Ford without Kyler, without Kyler. For me, I told you guys, this is my team. If I'm getting over 100 points, I'm doing something right. That's a great week for me at this stage of my team and this stage of my season. 20 points from Herbert, underwhelming. Swift looks like he's back on track a little bit, 20 points, but now he's back on the injury report. So who knows? Cord, nothing. I don't know why Cord doesn't catch the ball. I don't know why there's no targets to the running back. It doesn't make sense to me. Clark had a good game. Thielen, underwhelming. Nico's okay. Pat and Gerald, good games. I mean, good games pretty much all around. I mean, but this is just the reality of my team. It is what it is. It's kind of their ceiling. So I fall to 5-8, officially 100% out of the playoff mix. If I won, still would have had a very slim chance, but a chance to sneak in. Ford, huge for him. I mean, 3-game winning streak, and controls his own destiny to be able to get a bye. If he wins this week, then he's locked up that 2 seed. So potentially maybe even the 1, to be honest with you. So next year, excuse me, I hope I'm not coming down with something. Throat's getting a little sore, nose a little runny. I don't know. The weather's been really shitty here all week, pretty much. Next here, we got Kickers Lives Matter and Cooter Gain. This is a huge game for Duncan. Huge. Of course, doesn't mean anything to JD other than to play spoiler. But huge game for Duncan, and he failed to deliver. If he was able to win this one, get to 7-6, would have put himself in a much better position to still potentially lose and still make it into the playoffs. Essentially now it's a must-win. I mean, it's a must-win, and he needs somebody else to lose for him to be able to sneak his way in there. So he doesn't control his own destiny anymore, and it's scary times for him. He falls 125 to 115. Rachaad White, he was up, 7 points, I think, going into Monday night. And Rachaad White, got a touchdown late. Got a bunch of checkdowns, I think, too, late in the first half. I mean, he had 6 catches. I mean, so he almost beat Duncan just on catches alone. He did fumble, but he should even got an assisted tackle. So, okay week from Duncan. Of course, he didn't have Mixon. He didn't have James Conner. He chose not to put in Darius Slayton despite, Slayton's middle mini tear that he's been on. He's been pretty damn good the whole season, really, since he started getting consistent playing time. Duncan got a little cute, rolled the dice on DeAndre Carter against an inferior opponent, and it cost him. If he puts in Slayton, that's enough to win the week for him. Tough to see that for Duncan. But Jacobs is still a monster. He's got Pacheco. I mean, he's got 4 starting quality running backs on his roster. And unfortunately for him, he can only start 3, but he's going to be starting 3 probably the rest of the season, really to try to kind of hide his wide receivers. Of course, Burks got murdered on the field, attempted homicide by the Eagles, while A.J. Brown was dancing on his grave, and, he's probably going to be out, this week. So that's what happens in the NFL with concussion. You miss that game and you miss the next one. That's the reality of the NFL at this stage, where we're at. And Fant getting 14 points is unlikely to have a repeat performance of that. But and I mean, for JD, he's dangerous. I mean, he's going to be a dangerous team in the horse ass. I certainly don't see him going 0-3 with the tear that Burrow's been on. Rashad White's emergence. Lockett's been great down the stretch here. Kittle's a big game waiting to happen. Of course, with Purdy, who knows? But, I mean, he puts up 125 without Hollywood in there as well. I really like his chances at probably maybe even winning out in the horse ass bracket, despite having the worst record. It's never hardly ever the team that has the worst regular season record that ends up winning the horse ass. Ford last year, dog shit team. Dog shit. One of the worst we've had in a long time. Still, he won 2 games and he was fine. So, anyway, next year, moving on, we got the Swamp Donkeys and doesn't contribute. Again, this is a huge game for Craig as well to try to control his destiny a little bit. Now he is needing to win and get some help to be able to get in. Excuse me. He loses 125-98. Ho-hum week for Blaine. Run-of-the-mill, 125. Josh Allen, pedestrian game. Barkley got back on track a little bit. ETN didn't look great. It was a blowout in Detroit. But St. Brown, monster game. Keenan Allen's back. He's looking great. And Eckler was good. So, 125, but he didn't have Hopkins this week. He was forced to start Eli Moore. It didn't work out. But, Blaine's team, not a lot of depth there, to be honest. But, he's fine. He doesn't need the depth. His team's still the front runner. Easy wins for him. So, for Craig, another week under 100 points. He's lost 3 in a row now. Tom Brady just gets 20 points every week. Nothing sexy, not going to kill you. Finally benched Dulcich. Of course, Dulcich has a great game, 15 points. But Palmer's looked good. Jacoby's been bad. I don't think he needs to play in a lineup the rest of the year. CD had a good game. Godwin had a good game. Gibson's been up and down. Ramondre's kind of been struggling a little bit as well. It's a little sophomore slump he's in. But, Craig has some guys on the bench that can produce. It's just a matter of finding the right configuration. That's because he's most likely going to end up in the horse ass. Not necessarily, but he might. That's going to keep him. But he's certainly one to keep your eye on for horse ass with his propensity, especially early on in the season, despite those names, despite the talent, not being able to seem to break 100 points all that often during the regular season. So, yeah, he's lost 3 in a row, 6 and 7. Like I said, Blaine's won 2 in a row, 9 and 4. Controls his destiny for the bye. Probably won't lose it. But it's possible. It is possible. He does have the second highest points, 4. I don't think anyone's can catch him there. So even if he does lose, he would lose and Ford would win, and Rip wins. Then Rip might sneak his way into a first round bye and Blaine would be on the outside looking in. But we'll get to that when we get to it. So next here we got discount double check, and if you lose to me, you really suck. Good bounce back game from Rip. Again, don't fall in the trap. Don't fall in the honeypot. It wins 139-90. Highest point total on the week. Just slightly ahead of Ford. Really carried. It's inflated a little bit by Jalen Hurts' monster game. I mean, Jalen Hurts, one of the best picks of the fantasy football season. It's amazing how different my year would look if I had kept. If I had kept Hurts. Oh, buddy, I miss you. I wish I had him. But Henry continues to kind of not be as good, I guess, as he kind of was in the middle of the season. 5.8 points. Should get back on track here down the stretch. He's playing some pretty piss poor run defenses. But he puts up 140 with two guys combining for half a point. Cortland Sutton did nothing and Dawson Knox got half a point. So, if he gets any bit of production there, I mean, you're talking about a 150, 160 point week. So, probably closer to 160. He's got Waller, should be back soon. It's going to be a big acquisition. I still think it's probably Blaine and Ford, Blaine and Rip as probably the two best teams entering as we enter the playoffs. Because McCaffrey's been a monster, going to continue to get fed. Tyreek, monster. Devontae Smith has been looking good. Debo, unsexy but solid. And James Cook is coming on, and yes. So, and then you got Savoy, 90 points. Sean, the pervert, allegedly, not a good game at all in his return. He scored less fantasy points than he had women, testify against him in court. That's not good. I know it was a lot, but I mean, not what he expected, certainly, in his return. So, you look at his bench, it's whatever. It's not great. But he does have Jameson Williams back. We'll see, Doesn't seem like the Lions have a ton of interest in using him much. But Watson's continues his hot streak. Ayuk, who knows, with Purdy at the QB. Olave, underwhelming game for him. Pierce, Jamal, pretty bad. So, all right, that brings us to our hold on a second. Excuse me. Oh, boy. Thought I was out of the woods with this shit. I guess not. What insults can I even throw at Connor anymore? What insults can I even throw at him? I've thrown them all. I've thrown him the book. He called me a few days ago to apologize for his poor performance, his poor, just poor, which is not a word that you would ever think would be used in the same sentence as Connor, because he's quite the opposite of that. But it's just been a very sad sight to see. It really is. It really has been a sad sight to see. Our three-time champion, as soon as the cards turn against him, to just say whatever, I'm done. Basically, I never thought I would see that from him, and it makes me look at him in a different light, a little bit different perspective going forward. I think biggest blowout, I believe, of the season. Lowest point total of the season by any one team. Nick wins 137-40. Must-win game for Nick. Must-win game, and he performed. I mean, there's only one team. I missed him earlier when I was talking about Rip. Rip, Ford, and Wheeler all had monster games this week. There's only one team that would have beat him. It was Rip. So certainly there was talks about just giving Nick a free win, but he certainly went out there and said, screw the haters and put up a performance that would have beat almost anybody. So, 3-game win streak, massive. I mean, massive surge down the home stretch here. And this is what great owners do. This is what great owners do. Bad ones like Wilson, they die down the stretch. Craig died down the stretch. Lost 4 in a row. Lost 3 in a row. Good owners dominate. And that's what Nick's done. It's looked at got very, very real reality just a few weeks ago that, Plunk and Nick were both going to see their longest active playoff made streaks end this season. Barring a miracle or some sort of magic happening, he's going to be in. He's going to be in. So it's still possible he can miss, but he's put himself in an extremely good position to sneak his way in there. Garrett Wilson's good, and this is the pulse that good owners have. He's playing the right guys, right? He's been back and forth with Pittman and Wilson, and it could have been a little bit better. I get it, but you're not going to ever bench Waddle. Bad game from him. Higgins was solid. A.J. Brown, monster game. He picked up Perine and Mix instead. And now, of course, Perine's about to be irrelevant again. But he's got Zeke to fill the void. He's looked great. Goddard might be back here before too long to fill the hole he has at tight end. And the way Goff's been playing, don't be surprised, folks. Nick gets his way into the playoffs, he might just screw around and win the whole thing. I would be very worried of the 3 of Blaine, Ford, and Rip. Whichever one doesn't get a bye, you might have to play him in the first round. I'd be very, very worried about that. Because you could see, or if you don't play him, you do get that first round bye. Let's just say he's a 6th seed, and you end up playing him as your first game. You're out. This happens almost every year that one of these teams that get a bye, if not both of them, lose that first game and they're up out of here by losing to a team that got hot down the stretch and is playing some of their best ball and gets their way into the playoffs. So, and Connor, 40 points. Even if you were able to start a legitimate lineup, you would have got, 20 more points, maybe. Maybe 30. You would have still got 70 points. Pretty abysmal. So, and Lamar's hurt. Lost 5 in a row, 4-9. Bad. It's very bad. Wow, bad. This is like whenever you first joined the league, bad. The Crompton days. So, anyways, okay, let's go ahead, quickly look through acquisitions. Craig loves them quarterbacks. Picked up 2 of them, $11 a pop. Tyler Huntley and Kirk Cousins. Excuse me. Big spender was Jerick McKinnon. Went for 20 to Wilson. Finally cut ties with Zach Ertz. I think it's so funny how a lot of guys that are for sure out for the year, you got their keeper rights. They're not going anywhere, but guys just keep them on the IR just to stash them, just to look at them, I guess. It's like what could have been. I wouldn't want to torture myself like that. I thought about cutting Cup because he's probably not going to be back this year, and I hate just sitting there staring at him as a daily reminder of what a bad trade in hindsight that I made. And how that really probably would have killed Rip. It's Rip's team, Rip's hopes. Anyway, Bellinger picked up by Blaine. I think that's a good pickup for him. Of course, tight end has been his Achilles heel, his one weakness on that team. I think Bellinger's solid before he got hurt. I think he'll get back rounded into form. Wilson picked up Jahan Dotson. Good game for him last week, but of course they're on bye this week, so not going to be a lot of help there. And then in a must-win game, nonetheless. And Homer got picked up by Nick. Potentially he's going to be the number 1 running back this week because of DJ Dallas might not play, Kenneth Walker might not play, so Homer might be the guy. All right, so Before we start breaking down these matchups here, let's just give an quick overview of the scenarios, right? So, start off with our first round buys, okay? None of them are playing each other, those top 4 teams that are 8-5 or 9-4. Those are the only 4 teams that are in play for a first round bye. First scenario, Blaine and Ford both win. They get it locked in. Let's say that Blaine loses and Ford wins. If Rip wins, that opens the door. This is either way. If Blaine or Ford lose and the other one wins and Rip wins, with him being the highest point scorer on the week, or on the season rather, he will get into that first round bye. Now, if they both lose, and let's just say Rip and D-Shade both win, it's probably going to be Blaine and Rip. Just because, like I said, Blaine has a pretty big lead in points for against everybody else who's competing for it. So, Blaine pretty much essentially has a spot locked up unless he loses and Ford wins. So, simple fact, you guys both win, you both get it. You both earn it. So, next here, we'll talk about the last 2 spots now that we have currently. It's Nick and Wilson, okay? Of the 2 other teams that are just on the outside looking in, Duncan and Craig are playing each other, right? Nick and Wilson are playing Blaine and Ford, okay, respectively. So, huge game those are 2 huge games, because Blaine and Ford are trying to guarantee that they get a bye, and Nick and Wilson are trying to fight to guarantee that they don't miss the playoffs. Now, saving grace for them, essentially, since Craig and Duncan are playing each other, only one of them can make it. One of them is for sure going to miss the playoffs. Whoever loses is going to miss the playoffs. Okay? So it's a guarantee that either Nick or Wilson will make the playoffs. So one scenario could be that, let's say, Nick and Wilson both lose. Okay? And Duncan wins. Okay, then it would be Nick and Duncan in based on the points. Okay, if Nick loses and Wilson wins and Duncan wins, now Nick's out of the playoffs. That's the only scenario that's going to see Nick miss the playoffs. If he loses, Wilson wins and Duncan wins. Okay, essentially, if Craig wins, he's going to get a spot. Sure, maybe. Actually, if Nick and Wilson both win, it doesn't matter what the Duncan Craig game is. If they both win, they'll both be 8-6, and Duncan will be 7-7 at best. So for Duncan or Craig to have a shot, one of them has to lose. For Duncan, it doesn't matter. He owns a point tiebreaker against both of them. For Craig, he really needs to win and probably see that, Craig's not going to make it. Even if he wins, he's not going to make it. Because he's 100 points behind Wilson. He's 130 points behind Nick. Even if they both lose and fall to 7-7 and Craig wins to get to 7-7, I doubt that he's going to outscore one of them by 100 points. I find it very unlikely. So, really, kind of the best that Craig can do is play spoiler to Duncan by beating him. Otherwise, I think Duncan has a very good shot if he wins to get in, because Nick and Wilson are playing two tough competitors there. So, all right. Let's go ahead here. Stop lollygagging around and get into a preview of this week's matchups. We'll start off with myself, and if you lose to me, you really suck. So this is probably a preview of the Horse Ass Bowl. Probably the two worst teams as it currently stands. Savoy's projected to win 100-97. So that's where we're at. I don't know. This game literally means nothing. It means nothing other than a little bit of seeding for who we're going to play first. But honestly, we'll probably, based on looking at people's records, will probably be the 9-10 matchup in the first round of the horse ass. So we'll probably be playing each other again on week 15, regardless of this outcome. So whatever, we'll go with Savoy. I'm sure Deshaun's gonna have a great game, bounce back game against me. Next here, we got Discount Double Check versus Cooter Gain. Hey, Rip needs to win to still hold a slim shot at getting into a bye. JD, again, this game means nothing. If JD can beat Rip, guarantees that Rip's not going to get a bye week. A couple of old roomies, little rivalry game here at the end of the season. But I think Rip's just got a little bit too much firepower, some good matchups, so we're going to go with Rip in that one. Next here, we got the Dirty Birds and Shach Dynasty. Plunk has set his lineup, kind of. Of course, he missed out on getting a quarterback this morning. Craig sniped him. So he needs to get a quarterback on his team. He's projected to lose 113-74. Both of them are dealing with buys. No Kamara, no Algier, no Komet for Plunk. No Aaron Jones, no Drake London for D Shade. But it does look like Michael Carter might be back, even though he might have lost his job to Bam Knight. I think there's some good matchups there for D Shade, so we're going to go D Shade in that one. And really here, there's three games that could be the game of the week. I mean, three huge games. Of course, there can only be one. You probably have already guessed what it's going to be. Our next game here, Fat Bastards versus the Cataclysmic Catches. Projected to be very close, 109-104. Ford is down Brian Robinson and Terry McLaurin. He's going double tight end set with Njoku and Ingram. He's rolling the dice and playing Cam Akers. He's been hot here a little bit. But if Kenneth Walker doesn't play, buddy, I guess he's going to have to throw in either Jalen Warren or Chuba Hubbard. And with that late start, let's hope it's not a game time decision because that could get very scary. Now, he does have Hubbard in the late game, too, so he's covered. What are you doing? What are you doing? Walking on the table. You want to be in the video? Look at this. Huh? You want to be in the video? Come here. Come on. Oh. There's Loki. He just wanted to say hi to y'all. He's looking around. What the hell? What's going on? Oh, there he is. I mean, so it could be a little scary for Ford. I mean, Ford, come Sunday, could be projected to lose this matchup very, very seriously. But for Wilson, he is missing David Montgomery this week. No Dotson, no Cobb. Mecole probably won't be back. Probably should start Tua. It's tough, though. I mean, you can't really go away from Patty Mahomes. Wilson needs it, guys. He needs a win, Loki. Maybe Loki knew I was talking about you. He's come here to bring you good luck, Wilson. Maybe he's come here to bring you good luck. So, but we're going to go Ford. I think Ford needs it. He's going to find a way. All right, here. Next penultimate matchup, we got the Swamp Donkeys versus Razorback Revival. Pardon me, just one moment. All right, back on. Okay, good. Swamp Donkeys, Razorback Revival. Again, it's if Nick loses, he can still make the playoffs. He just needs Duncan to lose. If Nick loses, he needs Duncan to lose to be able to make it. Because if Duncan wins, and Nick loses, Nick's out. I think regardless of what happens with Wilson. Maybe he can still get in if Wilson loses, based on the points. I don't. Nick's no Pittman this week, no Fields, but he does have Garf in there. So yeah, we're gonna go Blaine. We'll go Blaine in that one. All right, and then that brings us to our game of the week. Probably shouldn't be. It's not a real lineup in there, but fuck it. It has to be. It's historic. This is a historic game. Let's see. Cats were on the counter again. Let's see. What could it be? Why not? Our Kellogg's Cocoa Krispies game of the week. Snap, Crackle, Pop. Chocolate sweetened rice cereal. Only 150 calories per box, so pretty good. A lot of added sugars, though. 30%, 15 grams of added sugars. The only sugars are added. Plenty of carbs in here. Some sodium, of course, from the sugars and salts and stuff. Saturated fats. But hey, you do get some vitamin D and some iron. You do have some good vitamins in there for you. Anyways, the Kellogg's Cocoa Krispies, the official chocolate rice cereal of the Bring That Wood Fantasy Football League. I apologize. I feel like my sponsors haven't been as good this year. I've tried to do some different stuff, and I feel like it hasn't really hit quite the same at all. So, cheers. You want to see if I can eat all these at once? Just kidding. Hey, that's pretty good. All right. Doesn't contribute, and kickers' lives matter. Not only is this a game for a chance, for one of these teams at least, to make the playoffs, this is the longest winning streak / losing streak that two opponents have ever had in league history. Not even close. Not even close. Craig is 14-1 against Duncan. I believe that counts this season's matchup from back in like week 2 or 3. I kind of screwed myself because I forgot when I stopped keeping track of that. So might get a little bit of double countage. It was either week 2 or week 3. I can't remember. And 14-1, 13 games in a row. 13 games in a row that Craig has won against Duncan. And if he makes it one more, he keeps Duncan out of the playoffs.
Keep him out of the playoffs.
That's all this game means to Craig. It means keeping the streak alive and keeping Duncan out of the playoffs. That's it, because he's not going to make the playoffs. He's not. He can't. It's impossible. He lost 3 in a row. He's done.
Neither one of them have made the playoffs in a really long time, though, right?
They both actually made the playoffs just last year.
What? Wow.
I was the only council member to not make the playoffs last year.
It's okay, baby.
As they so often remind me. So, boy, would it be sweet, Craig, if you were able to knock him out, too, and keep 3 council members this year out of the playoffs. So, it's not projected to be particularly close. Duncan is projected to win 123 to, we'll round up for you, Craig, 100 points. However, that is with only one running back in there. That's the game of the week.
You ready to get some?
Yeah. So he gets another running back in there. Looking at the waiver wire, not great. You're looking at maybe 5-6 points. Hopefully a miracle happens. Basically, you're hoping that some guy just gets a touchdown. Okay. And so his projection is probably only going to get to 105. But anyway, let's go ahead and break it down here. So, battle of the quarterback, you got Kirk Cousins against Detroit. They blew out the Jags last week, but their defense is still a little suspect versus Derek Carr against the Rams. Carr, I don't like Carr as a quarterback, as a person. Pretty underwhelming. His highest point total on the season is 26. I like Kirk in that one. You give me noon o'clock Kirk against Detroit. That's the kind of Kirk Cousins that gets 3 to 4 touchdowns and 450 passing yards. Okay, battle of the running backs. Let's just look at the waiver wire. Let's just say he picks up Mike Boone, I guess. Maybe Kenny Gainwell. Why is Justin Jackson projected to score so much? I don't know why Detroit uses Justin Jackson. And I love Justin Jackson. I thought he was a good back. So, yeah, he'll probably pick up Mike Boone or Kenneth Gainwell. Whatever. Between him and Ramondre versus Mixon and Jacobs, it's a no contest. Arizona's a bad defense, don't get me wrong, but 17 seems a little high the way Ramondre's been playing.
Eggnog and ice cream.
Oh, I thought you put the cereal in there. We're going to go with Duncan in that one with the running backs. Battle of the wide receiver, you got Judy, Jefferson, and Slayton versus Godwin, Myers, and CeeDee Lamb. He's sticking with his guy. It's going to come down to Monday night. I guess he wants those bullets in the chamber. It's tough. I really think that Jefferson just dominates Detroit. The only saving grace for Craig is that he has Kirk Cousins, so Jefferson's points get a little bit diminished. But we're going to go with Duncan in that one, too, with the wide receiver battle. Tight end, you got Fant and Dulcich. We're going Dulcich. And then the flex, you got James Conner versus Josh Palmer, I'm sorry. I'm going to push this one. I think 14's a little high against New England. James Conner has been good since he got back from injury, much better than he was on my team before he got hurt. Surprise, surprise. Bet you never heard that story before. We'll push that one. So, really, for Craig to win, CeeDee is going to have a monster game. Jacoby's going to have a monster game. But really, I think, Kirk is going to have to wow, because I don't know how much production he's going to get from his running backs or from his flex, potentially, to be able to play spoiler. But we're going to go with Duncan in that one. I think Duncan does it, and I think that Wilson and Nick both lose. Even though did I pick that? I can't remember. I think that's what I picked. Nick and Duncan end up making the playoffs, unfortunately. So, anyways, that's all I got this week, fellas. Hogs are playing OU in basketball this weekend, a little revenge game. So, hey, that's it. We're regular season's over after this week. Playoffs start, and the intensity just gets ratcheted up even more. So, good luck to all of y'all playing for something this week. To those who aren't, Savoy, myself, whatever. Good luck, and as always, Woo Pig.